astronauts to the moon.
Sometimes popular opinion can create facts.
We don't have time for a meeting of the Flat Earth Society.
I think it's time we let reality dictate our facts. We were all taught that the Earth is a sphere, that this was an undisputed fact, one science had found to be undeniable through testing and scientific scrutiny. Then we were taught that our ancestors and humanity had spent thousands of years in confusion, hopeless superstition, and inadequate comprehension, which led to the Dark Ages, a period that could have spelled the end of humanity had it not been for the advent of the scientific revolution that sprung up in the 16th and 17th century. It was in this scientific revolution that the ideas of the scientific method came into play, without which our current levels of knowledge might never have been attained. However, some people in the world still feel that these so-called facts, if they are in fact facts, should stand up to the scrutiny of testing. If yesterday's fact fails today's experiment, it must be tomorrow's former fact or science's previous incorrect conclusion. The scientific method claims to be a systematic and logical approach to discovering how things work. It is the body of knowledge accumulated through the discoveries of all things. Science is the knowledge of something based on demonstrable and reproducible data. The scientific method dictates that we should collect measurable empirical evidence in an experiment related to a hypothesis in the form of an if-then statement, the results aiming to support or contradict a theory. Here are the steps of the scientific method. First, make an observation, state your purpose. Second, ask questions, gather info and do your research. Third, form a hypothesis. Fourth, test that hypothesis. Fifth, analyze the data and draw conclusions. And sixth, reproduce the experiment. No reproducibility, no science. Our observation and our purpose. Despite what we are told and taught, several observations must be noted in regards to the curvature of the Earth. Number 1, the horizon is not curved and rises with the observer. Second, the stars appear to make circles in the night sky for everyone on Earth. How is this possible on a sphere? Third, the Earth does not seem to be spinning by any test done on Earth. 4, the Earth does not seem to be flying through space at breakneck speeds. Fifth, the distances that would include a curvature do not seem to show one. Sixth, no real pictures or videos of the Earth exist from space. Our next step was to ask questions, gather info. We did research, and there is in fact no way to test or prove that the Earth is spinning. From there we began to ask questions and realized that the answers we got were mostly in the form of name-calling and threats, being referred to as idiots or retarded, ancient or stupid. We also had many people point us in several directions that did not jive with actual results, such as asking us to look at the way water goes down toilets or drains in the northern and southern hemisphere. Research showed that this goes down the same way and has nothing to do with the hemisphere of the Earth. The axis of the Earth points to the celestial North Star, or Polaris, and as the Earth speeds along in its rotation and orbit of the Sun, while the Sun orbits the galaxy and while the galaxy orbits the universe, somehow, in that 11+ billion mile journey throughout the year, the axis always remains pointed at Polaris and has done so throughout Earth's recorded history. For these reasons, as well as several others, we began to doubt the curvature of the Earth. In our searches, I found 2 methods of calculating the curvature between 2 spots on Earth, and this being a preliminary test, we will be using these formulas, but please take note that they are approximate. One method using the Pythagorean theorem dictates that a squared plus b squared equals c squared, And from that, and knowing that the curvature is a parabola, we can devise a simplified equation of 8 times the distance in miles squared equals inches of curvature. Also, using the distance to the horizon formula of 1.23 times the square root of the observer's height in feet, we can get the inverse equation, if given the distance to the horizon in miles, that the height in feet that the required item needs to be in order to be seen is the distance in miles squared and then divided by 1.513. Quite a few people have stated that despite this Pythagorean theorem, that we need to minus an additional mile from any total distance. We feel that after using both of these equations that is not completely necessary. Many people were saying that if it was 4 miles, you needed to subtract the first mile and actually do the equation using 3 miles. The reason I don't think you need to do that is because it is correct that it's 8 inches of curvature in 1 mile, because 8 times 1 squared, which is 1, 8 times 1 equals 1. If you had to minus the first mile, then 8 times 2 miles squared, which is 8 times 2 squared, 8 times 4 is 32 inches, which is the correct curvature for 2 miles. If you minused 1, as many people are asking us to do, 8 times 2 minus 1 would be 8 times 1, which again would be 1 squared is 1. 8 times 1 equals 8 inches. So therefore you'd be saying that the curvature of 1 mile is 8 inches and the curvature of 2 miles is 8 inches, which we know that is not correct. However, because it does not appear that there's any curvature in 10 miles or even 20, we feel comfortable in minusing that 1 mile from the distance, and we'll call that an margin of error in favor of the curvature. In the spirit of science and the scientific method, and not holding on to any dogmas or tradition or preconceived and absolute facts, even though untested, we would appreciate anybody who feels that our math is in any way incorrect with contacting us or leaving a comment with what the correct math should be, so that we can update our math for the next test. The original hypothesis stated, if the Earth was a sphere with a circumference of 24,901 miles and an average radius of 3,959 miles, then a laser shot from 1 foot above sea level across a 4-mile body of water from one side of the seashore to the other should not be able to be seen at less than 9 feet above sea level on the opposite side. So we had gathered all the data and we had the location, so we were ready for the tests. Unfortunately, the fog was quite thick and we were unable to shoot the boats on the horizon, and we were unable to shoot the long distance pictures of Santa Cruz from Monterey. Add to that a late sunset and a dead battery and a dropped live feed, and you've got a bad first test. Now when you drop your live feed, just to let you know, you really shouldn't sit on the beach discussing the tests for a few hours and new ideas, or you end up getting a visit from the Monterey Police Department. So don't be doing that. And now a quick recap of the experiment and what went wrong and what we needed to change for round 2. The original experiment was from Monterey or Pacific Grove, California, from Lover's Point, and we were attempting to shoot a 1,000 milliwatt laser across the 4-mile stretch to Sand City, California, and a little place called Message Hill. We had tested the laser a few days before just to make sure that it shot across that distance, and it looked like it was absolutely no problem. We saw it reflecting from the hill, which is behind the shore there. So we had no issues with the length that the laser would go, and it was definitely bright enough in the night sky. You can see the laser here on the screen is incredibly powerful. I was able to light a match with it and go straight through electrical tape. And there you can see a little diagram from Google Earth of exactly where we were shooting. And the total distance was a little bit over 4 miles. It was about 4.07, I believe. So we had got there the night of the test, and as I said, fog was thick, so we had to wait a little bit and make sure that we got to nightfall before we tried the test. When we got around to testing, we had somebody waiting on the receiving side, and they had their video camera ready in order to show where the beam hit the shore. The hypothesis, or the result we were looking for, was we figured since we were shooting at 1 foot above sea level from the Pacific Grove side, that it would be impossible for that beam to hit anything below 10 feet on the opposite hill. Unfortunately, one thing that we weren't able to test on test night was when the beam hit the other side, it was reported that it was about 10 feet in diameter. So the beam obviously grew quite large, was something we couldn't see on test day. And so that nullified the results, and we were all upset. And we're trying to think of ways as we sat there on the beach, how could we get this laser to go across and not lose its beam? Was there anything else that we had learned from the experiment that would tell us that we could get a definitive answer one way or the other? Now you can see on the screen from the zoomed in video camera what that beam looked like across the 4-mile ocean. And from this view you can actually see that that beam is quite large. It was so large, in fact, it wasn't even able to be videotaped or photographed. With such a large diameter beam, it was really starting to look like the only possible way would be for us to get a new laser with a more focused beam. Nothing else seemed like it was going to work until it hit me that if I had gone to the other side...
I mean, it's not just convincing me because I'm convinced, but I mean, for as far as video evidence, I'm wondering if the camera would be able to see the green light, especially like what you just said on the rock.
Yeah.
If I come in on this side of the rock and shoot the rock and just make circles with the laser on the rock, if the camera saw that from across the water, if the camera's at water level,
Yeah.
So personally, I thought that the fat guy had a great idea, so I went ahead and went with it. You can see on the left side of the screen we did away with the idea of shooting the laser across the water, and went with the idea on the right side, which was to have the camera zoom in and try to see the laser. This way we could be right at the seashore, and we thought this was a better idea. So then came the next night, and we planned on doing the retest. This time we had the cameraman stay in the same position at the Pacific Grove Lovers Point side, and we went to the Sand City, Message Hill shoreside. We took with us the laser and a poster board so that we could stand that upright, and we marked on the poster board different heights from 6 inches, 12 inches, 18 inches, all the way up to 2.5 feet. And we also reformulated our hypothesis. We had also changed the math to take the 4 miles down to 3, just to give us that little cushion and lean it towards the globe side. So instead of the 10 feet curvature, we were now looking for 6 feet curvature with a 3-mile span, which was actually 4 miles. The new hypothesis stated that if the Earth is a globe or a sphere with a circumference of 24,901 miles, then at a distance at sea level of 4 miles, a camera at 3 foot high should not see anything below 3 foot on the opposite shore. So the cameraman set up his camera at sea level. The height of the tripod was 30 inches. The height of the camera was about 5 inches. So that gives us 35 inches, almost 3 feet on the shooting side. You can see there. And then what he was doing is zooming in and attempting to find us at the shore in the seaside. Sorry, in Sand City.
okay. So we're gonna get down here as close as we can without getting die down waves. You can call him and see if he sees us, or I'll just shine the laser. We'll shine it to the ground or something. Yeah.
I'll look for you do later.
Okay.
And I'll call him.
Okay, call him and then tell him to watch me.
And call him. So then start marking.
Yeah, I showed him. No, but I don't know how you wouldn't see us anyway without the laser. Okay, got me? Okay, beautiful. So you see, can you see this white cord? In front of me, I'm going to shine on the cord. Okay, how far are you off?
Now for me, and I know I tell you guys to not believe me, so do your own tests, but this test was definitely definitive. 4 miles, and there's just no way that there is a 10-foot curve. It just isn't there, doesn't exist. I'm at the most 2 feet above sea level, that's maximum, and I get all the way down right to sea level. Patrick is 30 inches above, and he gets down to a little less than that, and he sees the laser with no issue, unless I shine it right on the ground, which, how would he see that? And if we add in the 3-foot waves that you can clearly see, well, that says that there's no curve, no way. So I'm really thrilled about the next one. We are doing 13.25 feet, and I think that keeping it kind of quiet where it's going to be, and when it's going to be, just because I think that could be something they don't want to get out, is that that's supposed to be a 100-foot drop. And it won't be there. And you may call that being one-sided, but I've been doing these tests and looking at everything else, and I can't help it if nothing shows a globe. What can I do?
Don't get blinded, guys.
Okay, let's keep, hold on. Keep doing it. So I'm down at 6 inches. If everybody can see that. And there's
A little lower.
probably,
Go a little lower. Set 6 inches. Yeah, right there.
I got it.
Okay, want me to just do the laser so you can have it again?
I'm just trying to figure out how high do you think I am above the water.
I think you're at sea level.
Yeah, I see it good. Yeah. Now shine it towards me. I'm right up to the water's mouth, right up to the water's edge. It's below my waist. It's right at crotch level, actually. Like that. So it's higher than my waist. Higher than my waist. No, not really. That's about as low as I can get. Because I'm right up to water now. I can measure when I get back to my office. I'm still recording. Yeah. Yeah. Go ahead. There you are. I can see you now. Right. Yep, I can see the light.
Like fully? He sees it fully.
I'll put it right here.
Fully.
You still see it? Huh? You can see the light.
Oh.
Where'd she go?
You're good, you're good, you're good.
You can see that.
That's amazing.
Okay, so just tell them you can see it, and they can sync that up with the video when we get it tomorrow.
Okay, everybody, so Patrick says he can see fully.
Zoomed in.
He zoomed in and you can see the full laser. And those waves are pretty high too, so.
Yeah, I'm going to try and move a little closer if we can.
Yeah.
The waves are coming down.
But I'm pretty sure we're gonna match up the footage.
Yeah. Ready? Yeah.
So we're even lower.
A little bit closer to the water. Okay. I might try and move again.
Holy shit. Sorry guys. I'm probably making these guys sick.
See that?
That's pretty low.
Okay.
That's good. Wow, really?
That clearly? How about, can you see the green? What do you see now?
Yeah, can you see that?
You can't see anything. That's interesting. Do you see nothing now?
So on the sand,
Okay, so tell me when you see the green light.
he's gonna tell us when he sees the light. Now, go a little lower. I'm gonna see if he sees it below
there?
6.
How about there? How about there?
Holy fucking shit.
How about there? How about there? That's where you lost it.
Right there, you lost it?
And here you see it?
So probably waves are getting in the way there.
You see it right here? But not,
He sees
how
it
about here?
he sees it lower than 6 inches.
How about here?
Way lower.
Here.
An inch.
Okay? He loses it at about an inch.
About an inch is where he loses it.
That's
Wow. I know, it's incredible.
So, the results are all but conclusive. May not be 100%, but next time they will be. Next test will be this week, and we are going out to a distance of 13.25 miles. And that will be a result that will not be able to be hid from. Even with both parties standing completely straight up tall with no worries, camera on a tripod, no worries about the swells, no worries about the waves. We will zoom in with a camera and a video camera and attempt to see the laser against that white backboard again at about chest high, so maybe 5 feet high. At 13.25 miles, the drop of the Earth should be, would be, could be about 100 feet. So, I want to hear some of the reasons already that this is going to be argued about. But as I said, with both parties at 7 to 8 feet, as far as their elevation to sea level, that still gives us 84 feet to play with. There's no way that will be the amount of curvature between those two locations. So we think this is the measurement that the globe defenders will cry over. Of course, we have changed our hypothesis to now include the new distance of 13.25 feet, which should yield us a 100-foot curve. And we have marked our new locations. So we're scheduling that for this week so we can get that done and put it in the books, as they say. So, I'm not sure about you guys, but this was pretty definitive to me. Again, I apologize if some people weren't happy with my attempt. I've never done this before, so give a guy a break. But I do think, and I don't know about you guys, but I think it's about time
We don't have time for a meeting of the Flat Earth Society.
that we have that meeting. We may not have time for that Mickey Mouse bullshit, but we certainly have time for the Flat Earth Society and a little discussion about why we've been lied to for 400 years. So, I want to give a special thanks to all my subscribers and those who donated to make these tests easier, more affordable. I appreciate it so much. Also, to Bob and Cammie. They have been outstanding, awesome. They purchased the laser. Couldn't thank them enough. Also, thank you to Patrick Doherty. He did the camera work, the film work. And lastly, a big thank you to Eric Dubay. Eric financed this test as well. And for being a good guy until recently. And that's going to be about it, guys. This has been, once again, your favorite all-time YouTube channel in the history of the world, Jeranism, reminding you all to open up your mind because there's truth inside, and that means don't believe what others tell you. So one thing I noted in my shill article on Eric Dubay's site is he was upset that I said I wasn't a 100% flat earther, and I'll say it again. You should only have a problem with me, guys, if I said I was a 100% flat earther, because that means I've closed my mind, and I haven't. Who knows what's going on? I'm just here to research it, talk about it. Let's all find it together. I'll also be coming this week with a little audio session for questions and answers, so hit me up if you think that's a good idea. Plan on doing like a Google Hangout or something. I think that'd be a good way to answer some of these questions. But again, don't lie to each other and treat each other better than you would treat yourselves. Until next time, this has been Jeranism, proving the Earth's flat because it certainly ain't no globe. Peace.